reality. And paying obeisances to my spiritual teacher and guide, and to our whole succession of spiritual masters, through whose which, by their diligent endeavor, the higher realizations of reality have been passed down from guru to disciple in an unbroken chain. This is called parampara. So, for a recap of last week, we went over the terms Bhakti, Yoga, Vedic, and culture. So, Bhakti means devotion, and everyone is devoted to something. You may think, oh, I'm not very devoted, but everyone is actually devoted to something. They may be devoted to money, they may be devoted to business, they may be devoted to their children or their family, they may be devoted to enjoying the senses, they may be devoted to following the thoughts in their own mind. So everyone is devoted to something, because this is a natural propensity of the soul to want to serve. And if you have nothing to serve, then you get a cat and you serve the cat, because everyone wants to have a relationship of exchange of love. So if people can't find it with humans, then they get a pet. And next is this word yoga. So yoga means to unite or to connect. And in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, in the second sutra, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha, Patanjali has given the definition of yoga according to him. When the lake of the mind is clear, then you can see your own true nature, and from that place of clarity, you can see where you fit into reality and how you can cultivate a loving relationship with reality. So yoga means connection, and bhakti means service, or how to connect to the higher reality in a mood of love. So that is bhakti yoga. And Vedic, another term for Vedic is Veda, and Veda means knowledge. And this is eternal knowledge. It is not a product of anyone's imagination. They have not thought this up. This is eternally existing truth, and the truth will set you free, as a wise man once said. And the last term, culture. So,
Last one is saying Veda is the truth.
Veda means truth. So it's not Indian truth, French truth, New Zealand truth, American truth. Vedanti tattvat vedastatyam yajganam advayam brahmati paramanati bhavanati shabhyate. For those who have seen the truth, they all agree the truth is advaya, non-dual, and the truth is one. So there's not many truths. You don't go to the spiritual marketplace and see, oh, I'll pick this truth, or I'll pick that truth, or I'll make a bit of a masala kitchery and so many truths together. Whatever tradition one is coming in, when they really go to the depths of that tradition and obtain realization, then all their masters, they have agreed the truth is one. But that one truth can be perceived in three different categories. In Sanskrit, those terms are Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. We will go into those terms a little later in the course. But the truth is one. So, at each cycle of creation, then the Supreme Lord, he gives the Veda, which is like the user manual for the universe, the user guide of how to come to truth. So that is Veda. And culture, in Sanskrit, the word for culture is Sanskriti. So culture means to cultivate, to live a lifestyle that raises one's consciousness, not just individually, but collectively for all living beings. And we see today in modern times, a lot of so-called culture is actually anti-culture. It's very degrading. It destabilizes our mind space, and in this oscillating mind space, we cannot perceive who we are and where we fit into reality. And so this is not uplifting in any way. It's actually very degrading. So this is not culture. So culture is Sanskriti, that which upholds Dharma, which raises the individual and all of society so they can come to the level of God consciousness. And I was sharing last week, in traditional times, the main building at the center of a city or community was the church, or it was the temple, or some kind of spiritual center. And so at the center of the community was an establishment for cultivating higher consciousness. And then the city, it built up around the centerpiece. And in modern times, the centerpiece buildings are the casino, the banks, very materialistic places we are worshipping. And then the whole society is built around that. So in this age, it's very unfavorable for the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, for the mainstream society, what is being propagated there. So that's just a little brief introduction into these terms: Bhakti, Yoga, and Vedic culture. And so over the coming weeks, we want to enter very deeply into many of these things, including Vedic psychology, and what is an obstacle what are the obstacles that we all face on our spiritual path of coming to this place of a loving connection with reality, and ultimately establishing a loving connection with the personality of reality, because reality is actually a person. That may seem a bit of a stretch for your intelligence right now, but you'll just have to find out. Because I'm not selling you any kind of belief system here. Because spirituality is actually a great science. And this Vedic culture, they are giving the perfect spiritual science. Just like in any scientific hypothesis, first there is a hypothesis, a theory, and then there is the process to follow to verify that theory and give a result that can be replicated again and again and again. So if you follow the spiritual science, then you can obtain the result. And there has been many people in the past, many people in the present, and there will be many people in the future who follow the spiritual science and they obtain the result. And so we are coming in one lineage of many, many masters who have followed the prescription, and by their own example they are showing us how we can also obtain the result. So spirituality is a science. It's not a hocus pocus belief. Oh, you should just believe this, or I'm selling you another belief to replace your current belief. Belief can have its place, but ultimately we want to come to experience. So if we follow the process, then we can have experience. Because if we just stay on the platform of belief, so much conflict will come. Because one person believes this, another person believes that, and in this way, wars go on. They're going on today. So we want to move past the platform of belief. And when you come to the platform of experience, then there won't be conflict. But so many people, they are not following the spiritual science, so therefore they stay on the platform of belief, and then in this way so much disturbance comes in their own mind and towards others. So in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which we covered last week, Arjuna, he was in a dilemma. He was in a state of confusion, in a state of despair, and he didn't know what to do. So I'm not sure if ever you have been in a state of confusion, in a state of, oh, I'm not sure what to do. Maybe you've had this experience at some point in your life. So he got to the point of realizing that he could not figure it out by himself. He needed a guide, he needed a teacher. And it just so happened that God was his chariot driver, which was quite convenient. What better teacher could you have? So there's many teachings here, but one of them is just being close to Krishna was not enough, because Krishna was Arjuna's chariot driver. But still, this did not dispel his confusion, his unsteady mind. So just being in the proximity of Krishna, just being in the proximity of Guru, the spiritual master, may not be enough. You actually have to follow his instructions. If you don't follow the instructions, then you'll still be in a state of confusion yourself. So Arjuna got to the point where he inquired to Krishna, please instruct me. So this also takes humility to admit, I have limitations and I don't know how to figure things out, this higher reality. And I need someone who has transcended these lower energies of the world and the unstable mind space, and this person can guide me. If you just have a very strong ego that's bigger than the Himalayan mountains, then you will be proud. Oh, I am so smart, I am so intelligent, and I can figure everything out myself. But the proof is you're still here, and in samsara, the material world, so maybe you're not so intelligent. So humility is the doorway into spiritual life, into any, if you want to learn anything, you have to be humble and realize, oh, I need a teacher. Chemistry, engineering, we just take it for granted. Yes, I need a teacher in these fields. But so often in spirituality we think, oh, I can figure this all out. But it's like any science. You need a guide who is a master in that field. And that master can impart the deeper truths of that subject matter. So this is where Arjuna has got to in the Bhagavad Gita. He's in a state of despair, in a state of confusion, and he has surrendered to Krishna. Now please instruct me. So then Krishna says to Arjuna, because previous to this in chapter 1, Arjuna, he was giving so many arguments because this was taking place in a big war. There was two sides of the army, and two armies, and Arjuna, he was one warrior on one side of the battle. And then he asked Krishna to draw his chariot between the two armies before the battle was about to begin. And then he looked around at both armies surveying the scene, and he saw, oh, I have friends, I have relatives on both sides of the battle. And he did not want to engage in killing his own family members. So then he thought, oh, it's better basically that I just renounce this situation and go off and become a sadhu in the Himalayas. But it was actually his dharma, his nature in this life to be a warrior. So he was avoiding his responsibilities and his duties with this kind of thinking. And so he put forward so many different arguments to Krishna of why he should not engage in the battle, of why he should not do his duty. And then so one of the first things that Krishna is saying here, in response to what Arjuna has presented, while you are speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. For those who are wise lament neither for the living or the dead, which is quite a interesting statement. For those who are wise, they do not lament for the living or the dead. Lament means grieve. So if you have a loved one pass away, you might read this verse and think, oh, I shouldn't be sad. You go to the funeral, you stop by a funeral place and everyone's crying, wearing black, and you say, oh, but you should not be lamenting. The wise don't lament for the living or the dead. So, of course, it's part of the natural human process in psychology that if one of your loved ones passes away, there's going to be a whole array of emotions that move through. But if you actually have transcendental knowledge, and this is what Krishna is starting to point out to Arjuna, that the soul, which is what we actually are, who we actually are, is eternal. It doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have a middle, and it doesn't have an end. It's eternal. Our material mind really struggles to digest this, because the mind is always thinking in beginning, middle, and end. It really cannot think about something that is eternal. And so Krishna continues giving some instructions in what's called Atma, knowledge about the soul. So then he says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So I'm eternal, you're eternal, everyone here is eternal. The souls in the trees, the plants, everything, all the souls are eternal. But our body, this is not eternal. We have this for some time, 50 years, 60 years, 100 if we're lucky in this age. But then your body, it will return back to the elements from which it came from. So in this way, the soul is passing from body to body to body in accordance with its desire and accordance with its karma. So it's very much essential to understand who we really are. Why do you think it's so essential to understand who we are? Any ideas? Let me share some insights. I'm glad you asked. So, there's 3 Sanskrit terms which are very important. You don't necessarily have to remember the Sanskrit, but remember what these are pointing to. So that is Sambandha, Parojana, and Abhidaya, which means Sambandha means relationship, Paroja means the goal, and Abhidaya means the method to obtain your goal. So everyone has some self-conception of who they think they are. I'm male, I'm female, I'm Indian, I'm Hungarian, I'm Australian. So much identity we have that's related to our current body. But this is actually not who you are. Just like you have some car, and different cars have different features available. Some of them have air conditioning, some of them have no air conditioning, some of them are convertible, some of them have very nice stereo system, some have no stereo system, but every car has a driver. So currently your body is like one vehicle that the driver, the soul, is currently inhabiting. And in different vehicles, different features are available. So in the human vehicle, we have very highly developed motor cortex, we have fingers, we have, this is a very advanced body in comparison to like the tree or non-moving living entities. But the soul is the same in both bodies in terms of its essential nature. So the soul is the same in the human body, and the soul is the same in the tree, the insect, the fish, the animal. However, depending on what vehicle or body the soul enters into, different features will be available to it. So in this human form of life, we have a very highly developed intellectual faculty, which we can put to great use, or we can utilize in a very destructive way. So, depending on who we perceive ourselves to be, that will give rise to your parojana, your goal in life. And then depending on what is your goal, you will follow a process to obtain that goal. So if you have the self-conception, I am this person, or I want to be this person, let's say for example, I want to be a very great surfer. So then that my parojana will be to be a very great surfer, or to be a very great businessman, something like this, or I want to have so many children. And then you will follow a process to obtain that goal. And so many people in life, due to the conditioning from society, they are following some goal which actually has no relation to their identity as being an eternal soul whatsoever. And so many people, they are wandering here and there all around the earth, different places, going on holiday, coming to Goa, but they actually have no idea who they actually are. So because they have no idea of who they actually are, they can never find any goal that satisfies their soul. So they are going from one relationship to another relationship, one country to another country, one job to another job, and never finding satisfaction in the soul, because for some short time they're basing their identity on, oh yes, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a chef, I want to be a paraglider, so many different things. And they may do this for some time, but still it won't satisfy the soul, because this is just a temporary designation. It has nothing to do with who you actually are. So this is one of the great defects of modern society. There is no education to actually cultivate any realization of who you actually are. So you go to university and school for so long, and they're teaching you, well, you should regurgitate this narrative that we have, and for those people who regurgitate the narrative the best, then they become the most qualified, and then they become the decision makers in society. Or you should follow this goal, you should follow this qualification, you should get this job, because this is just what society does. But does this bring happiness? We can reflect back on the last few hundred years since the Industrial Revolution. Suicide is at an all-time high. Depression, mental illness, disturbance in mental health, all these things are going on because we have very much become removed or divorced from our own essential underlying connection to who we actually are. So then this is very unsettling for our deeper nature, because we're very much just going, because actually Patanjali points this out in the first 4 sutras of the Yoga Sutras. This encapsulates the whole book, and then the rest of the book is essentially just unpacking these first 4 sutras. So, as I mentioned before, Yoga's Chittavriti Nirodha. Yoga is the stilling of the changing states of the mind. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Samattam Yoga Uchite. Yoga is equilibrium of mind. So when the mind is clear, the mind is peaceful, just like a very calm lake, then you can see your reflection in the lake. But when the lake is very disturbed, then it's hard to see your identification, it's hard to see who you are. And then the ripples in the lake of the mind, you start to identify with those ripples, with those waves of thought in your consciousness, in your mind, and you think, oh, I am these thoughts. And then I just follow these thoughts here and there all over the world, but never finding any satisfaction, because these thoughts actually have nothing to do with you, have nothing to do with who you actually are. So Patanjali says in Yoga Sutras, in the 3rd sutra, Tadadrastahu Sarupe Vastanam, when the lake of the mind is clear, then one is abiding in their own true nature, that is, of being an eternal soul in relation to the supreme reality. And then in verse number 4 he says, Vritti Sarupam Itaratra. Otherwise, at other times, the seer, you, is absorbed in the changing states of the mind. So what does it mean to be absorbed in the changing states of the mind? Also Krishna says in, pretty sure it's Krishna, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that which is perceived only when the underlying essential reality is not perceived, and it's never perceived directly in the self, you should know to be my Maya. So, in other words, if you're not established in truth and operating from truth, you're lost in illusion, and you're operating in just waves of illusion. So what does that actually mean to be in truth and operate from a place of truth? Because at every moment, so many impressions are coming into your consciousness, and these impressions are of 3 types. The Sanskrit word is samskara. And so one type of impression, one type of samskara is like a line on the water, and very quickly you cannot see that line. The water just returns back to its natural state. And then the next form is like a line in the sand. It stays for some time, but then after a day or two, then you can no longer see that line. And then another samskara is like a line etched in rock. And these samskaras stay in your consciousness for a very, very long time, maybe many, many lifetimes. And these deep rooted samskaras, these deep rooted impressions in your subconscious mind, these are the very foundations of your persona, of your personality, and are so deeply seated. This is the very foundational structure of your operating system, of your psychological operating system. And you don't even know that you're operating from these deep-seated impressions. And you just think, oh, this is me. This is my personality. This is my persona, the mask that I wear. Of course, we don't say that because I am what I think. So this is something quite shocking, that I'm not what I think. And what I think about everyone else is also not true. This is like quite a revelation if you actually can witness it for yourself. I'm not saying that there's not some relative truth in your thoughts, but there's no absolute truth in these waves and fluctuations in the changing space of the mind. Because one impression, one samskara comes into the active part of the consciousness. This is called tanu. And then that impression, it rotates the vix chinna and goes back into the subconscious mind. So whatever impression is in the active part of the consciousness, we think that's me, we think I'm thinking that, I consciously chose that thought, and I'm going to follow this thought. This is like one donkey has a carrot on a stick in front of it, and you're following that carrot here and there, never quite obtaining anything that's really giving satisfaction. So whenever impression comes into the active part of the consciousness, when we are in a state of very dynamic energy, then we just follow that thought. But is that actually free will or not? Free will is, will I follow this thought or will I not follow this thought? And so we have to see, are my thoughts leading me, or am I leading my life and utilizing the mind? Because spiritual life is very much about making the mind your friend. We want to be friends with the mind. The mind should serve us, should serve the soul. We don't want to be a slave to the mind. Because when you're a slave to the mind, then you'll never obtain any auspicious destination. And so, yeah, what you think about everyone else is not true. This is quite shocking. Because, you know, if there's a mirror, and our chitta, our mind space, it's in its pure state, it's like a mirror. And these samskaras, these impressions, they are reflected on the mirror of the mind. And then, if we're not too conscious, we just follow the reflections that are reflected upon the screen of the mind. But try to sense into this, try to feel into it. Like a mirror has a silver backing on it. And if you scratch the silver backing off, what is it like to pierce through, to see through the mirror? Not just seeing through the impressions that are reflected in your mind space due to your previous experience. Because we never see anything actually as it is. We always see it through the lens of the impressions that are that we have accumulated along the way. So every person here is coming from some different life experience, and these different life experiences have shaped our personality, they have shaped our nature, and it's like wearing a pair of glasses, and we observe and interact with life always wearing these glasses. So everyone is wearing a different pair of glasses, and so much we want people to see things the same way that we do, but this is actually, from a certain point of view, it's impossible, because everyone is coming with different impressions in their subconscious mind. So if you remove the glasses, what's that actually like, to see things in truth? What do you think that would be like? peaceful? Yeah, I'm sure it would be. Because it's a great burden to see things through the trash can of your own mind that you're always dragging along with you. It's actually not a nice way to interact with reality. Because a lot of this stuff, it's certainly not absolutely true. Okay, this person may have done this or had this behavior at a certain point of their life, but there's no need to define that person for the rest of their life just through one thing that they done. You know, the current Pope, he has a very nice saying. There's no sinner without a future, and there's no saint without a past. So, you know, the closer someone is to us, family member, romantic partner, actually the less freedom we give that person. Because if you have just met someone today, for example, then you want to sit down with them and you have an open kind of curiosity. Oh, I want to know about this person. What do you like? What's your interest? Where have you come from? All these things. But if you've known someone for a long time, then with these impressions in your consciousness, oh, I know this person very well. I know their favorite food, I know their favorite color, this and that. And in this way, you keep them in a little prison box inside your head. And then this is how this person should act towards me all the time. And particularly family members. If the family members is not treating me like this because this is the idea I have about you, and if you're not meeting this idea, then a big disturbance comes. But if it's some stranger, then you have an open curiosity and you give them more freedom. So very much we imprison other people, but we also imprison ourselves through always seeing through these samskaras, these impressions in our consciousness. And it's, you know, there's one story of two monks at a river, and then along comes a very attractive lady, and the monks were about to cross the river, and then the lady, she didn't want to get her dress wet. So one of the monks, he picked up the lady and put her on his shoulder and carried her across the river. And, you know, for very strict monks, they should not touch any woman or anything like that. And then the woman went on her way, and then they were walking along the road for some hours. And then one of the monks who didn't carry the woman, he turned around to the other monk and he said, you know, I have to know, why did you pick up that woman and carry her across the river? You know, this is against our rules. And then that monk said, wow, I just picked her up and put her down hours ago, but you're still carrying her. So we carry these things around in our mind space all the time, and it's a great burden, actually, to carry all these judgments towards people, towards things. All we see is through concepts. But, you know, is there such a thing as a true thought? When you're not referencing your own unclear mind space towards reality, what's that like? Like, what are you when you're not referencing thoughts about yourself? Who are you? And who's the other person? Are you worthy? Are you unworthy? Are you lovable? Are you not lovable? All these things are just ideas in the mind. But do they have any actual grounding in reality? So Krishna, first he's helping us understand who we are. And in this way there's a bit of a V-yoga, a bit of a separation of understanding who we are not. By understanding who we are not, then we're coming closer to understanding who we are. Because we're just living a life of distorted thought, to put it in a nice way. So Krishna gives some instruction about tolerance of the mind, which I'd like to come back to at another point. And then he's giving so many verses about the Atma, about the soul, and how the soul is eternal, how the soul is neither born or does it ever die, because the body is born, the body dies. Like the last time I checked, the statistics were everyone's going to die on Earth. There's no survivors. So no one's getting out of here alive, I'm sorry to say. But there's no need to fear, because your soul is eternal. if you've ever been with someone when they're passing away and you're somewhat sensitive, you can very much feel when the soul leaves the body. And we'll get more into this a little bit later in the Gita. So these are very profound points to ponder on and investigate, that there's no birth, there's no death, there's never a time when the soul came into being, because the soul is eternal. There's never going to be a point where it reaches its expiry date. The soul is eternal. And here's a very nice verse. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So, if someone's passing away, they have some sickness, their body's breaking down, it can very much be a suffering condition. Right? It doesn't matter how much you believe in high philosophy. When you're in intense physical pain, you very much feel like you're in the body. And so when the body is breaking down towards the end of life, because of our attachment to the body, our relation to this person, then we are very much sad. Oh, I don't want you to go. Why don't you stay here? Blah, 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 blah. But if someone has a very old dunga car, not very nice car, and then they're about to get a new car, if they're your friend, you're very happy for that person. So in the same way, when our old broken down body is about to expire, we should be we should have the awareness that this soul's journey is going to carry on, and if they have some good karma, then they will get a fresh new body. Or either way, they'll get a fresh new body, but in some place. So in this way, there's no need to be lamenting over this. And Krishna gives some more insights towards the nature of the soul, that it can never be cut to pieces by a weapon, burned by fire, moistened by water, withered by wind. When China was invading Tibet, this is a long time back, not this last time, but a previous time, there was one military general, and he was getting reports from his ministers. Is everyone obeying our command and succumbing to our conquer? And they were saying, yes, everyone is, apart from one monk in the monastery. And so that general, he became furious, and he jumped on his horse and he went up to the monastery. And then he went up to that monk and he pulled out his sword. And he said, don't you know who I am? I could slice this sword through your belly without blinking an eye. And then the monks looked at him in the eye and said, don't you know who I am? I could let you slice that sword through my belly without blinking an eye. And he was shocked, and he had the sword up in the air. And then the monk looked at the sword and he said, hell. And then the general, he put the sword down and he said, heaven. So if you're really established in Atma Tattva, then there's nothing, you won't be afraid of death. Patanjali goes later in the Yoga Sutras, the 5 root causes of suffering. Avidya, Raga, Dvesha, Binivesha, Asmita. Number 5 is the fear of death. And in one commentary on Yoga Sutras, he gives an example. If you take one insect and you try to drown that insect, they very much try to fight back and try to live. So this propensity to want to live, to want to keep the body alive, it's very deep-seated. And even in monks and sannyasis, it can very much be latent, because there's an inherent drive in the body to want to stay alive. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. I'm not saying go and stand in front of a bus. But it causes great suffering, because we're always engaged in an agenda to how to keep this temporary body alive. Inject some more Botox to keep it beautiful, and so many things. But this is futile, because this body has its duration, and the soul is eternal. So when you understand, if you just for a moment shift your perspective, okay, just for a hypothesis, I'm an eternal soul, and so many lives will come and go, and even this planet, even from a scientific point of view, this universe, the sun's going to burn out one day, and all these planets, everything will be reduced to dust. But your soul will continue until the next cycle of creation. And then, unless you actually do some bhakti and you get out of this whole cycle of samsara, again, your soul will be present through all of it. So right now we're navigating our life through some kind of conception we have about ourselves. And many people, they don't think deep enough of who they actually are, or they just go off what their parents have told them or what their school teacher told them they should do, get this job, this kind of thing. Or they think, oh, I don't know who I am, I'm just enjoying. I'm just floating around and I'm enjoying here and there, which is still a form of identification. So then this still gives rise to some kind of goal. My goal is just floating around and enjoying here and there, here and there, here and there. And so my method to obtain that is to just float around here and there, here and there. But this will never satisfy you. And it doesn't matter how much you float around here and there and have nice experiences. There'll always be an existential yearning of the soul to connect to something deeper. And so this is what we're starting to point towards this bhakti yoga of how to connect to reality in such a way that it can really satiate the yearnings of the soul to be in loving connection with reality. Because everyone is looking for some kind of loving connection, whether that's with a cat, whether that's with putting selfies on Facebook. Everyone is seeking connection in some way, but because of lack of education, we're very much doing it in a misguided way. So Sanskriti is the culture and Bhakti is the process to bring us back into a state of harmony so we can be in loving relationship with reality. And one of the foundational principles we need to understand is who we really are. And if we don't understand who we really are, then we'll forever be lost in the mind. And of course there's a process to realize this for yourself. It's not just some belief. As we go on, maybe from next week, we'll give some process you can do every day in your home to bring your mind to a state of clarity, to a state of peacefulness, so you can actually become in contact with your own soul and the soul of your soul. So these are the things that I'd like to move towards in our classes. Oh, here's a nice verse. Krishna's pretty onto it, you know. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. And some hear of him as amazing. While others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So maybe you've been sitting here today and think, I don't understand any of this. But don't worry. Just by chanting this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, all realization will come. You don't have to read so many books, learn so many things. Just hear these divine names, these transcendental sounds, and gradually, all the fluctuating waves in the mind space, they will come to a state of clarity. And your mind will be like a very peaceful lake on a very calm, clear morning. And you'll be able to receive the reflection of your soul and how your soul is linked to the Supreme Reality in a very loving mood, linked to Radha and Krishna. So all these things are possible, you know. Is there any questions, thoughts, or reflections? Any questions are welcome. Yeah, so the next part of the program, we're going to have some more chanting of the Maha Mantra, and then we'll have a nice Ayurvedic vegetarian feast. So it's vegan, and all the food is prepared in such a way that the food combinations are compatible to bring harmony to the body, bring harmony to the mind, but the food is also blessed and it becomes prasadam, spiritual food. So then it's very nourishing for the soul. And if you have any questions, you can ask very learned people who are more learned than myself over lunch. And these programs are happening every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. The programs here at this location. And we have programs happening every day. And so you're welcome to join our WhatsApp group so you can keep tabs on what's happening every day. And every day at 5:30 we have Sankirtan, the chanting of the Mahamantra out on the beach, and we walk up and down the beach chanting Hare Krishna. It's a great time, so all are welcome to come along. And if anyone is inspired to give any donation, you're most welcome, but there's no obligation whatsoever. It just helps us support the programs to keep happening. We have books. If you want to browse at the books over lunch, you're most welcome as well. So thank you very much for patiently listening to my ramblings. I wanted to give a very nice story about the soul and about one child and his simple-hearted inquiry about the soul, but I didn't quite get to that today, so maybe next time. People have heard enough of me. Okay. So, one time there was one Brahmin, like one priestly man, and he was doing one yajna, one fire sacrifice. So maybe for those of you who have travelled around India, you'll see like the priests, they make one fire, sacred fire, and they make so many offerings to the fire, ghee and spices and other things, and chanting mantras, Om Prajapati Vishnu Vishnu Gayatri Chancha Vinyogaha Swaha. So one time there was one sage, and he was doing one of these yajnas, and his name was Vajrasas, and he was performing a Vashyajit yajna, and at the end of the yajna he was giving charity away to everyone, and in charity he was giving so many cows away, and his little son was there, and the son, he was looking and he saw, oh, these cows, actually they are all barren cows. They are not going to have any calf, so they're not going to give any milk in the future. So really he was giving away a defective product. And so the son, he was very simple-hearted but very pure-hearted. And the son's name was Nachiketa. And so he saw this giving away in charity going on, and he thought, well, I'm quite pure-hearted, so my father should give me away also, and some good benefit will come to him by giving me away. So then he went up to his father and he said, oh, Peter Street, when are you going to give me away to the Devatas, to the higher beings, and some good will come to you? And his father was busy at this point, so he just kind of ignored him. And then again, the son persisted, oh, when are you going to give me away in charity? And then this happened 2 or 3 times. And then this father, he got quite annoyed, and he said, I will give you away to Yamaraj. And so Yamaraj, he's the god of death, like the Grim Reaper. And so Nachiketa, he thought, oh, well, in this world, everyone's body, it grows old, it dies. This happens to everyone. So there's no harm in me going to the abode of death right now. So then off he went to the abode of death by himself. And when he got there, he knocked on the door, and no one was home. Mr. and Mrs. Yamaraj, Mr. and Mrs. Death, they'd gone away for the weekend. They'd gone to Goa for a break. So then he just sat down and he waited there. 1 day passed, 2 days passed, 3 days passed, and then finally Mr. and Mrs. Yamaraj, they came back home and they saw this young boy waiting on the doorstep. And Mrs. Yamaraj, her heart melted, and she thought, oh, you've been waiting here for so long. We have uninvited guests and we have not been able to offer any hospitality to you. This is a great offense. And then she said to her husband, oh, you should offer this young boy a boon, some benedictions for just waiting here without any hospitality. And Yamaraj, he thought, yes, I agree. So he said to that boy, Nachiketa, you can ask from me 3 boons, 3 like wishes. And so Nachiketa, he thought about it for a moment, and he thought, well, when I left my home, my father was very upset and angry with me. So my first wish is, when I return home, please let my father be happy to see me and greet me in a very loving way. And Yamaraj says, Tatastu, so be it. And so that wish was fulfilled. And then next, Nachiketa, he requested, he said, in Swargaloka, the heavenly planets, the demigods, they have no hunger, they have no thirst, and they are enjoying so much. Because, here on earth, we have certain pleasures. We have chocolate, we have ice cream, we have cake. Maybe we even have chocolate cake flavored ice cream. But in the heavenly planets, the enjoyment is far beyond your wildest dreams. And the duration of life is so long in comparison to the duration of life here on this planet. So Nachiketa was thinking about this. And then he also said, and these demigods, they are immortal. So please tell me, what is the yajna? What is the fire sacrifice by which I can go to Swarga, to heaven? And then Yamaraj said, well, actually, the demigods, they are not immortal. And they're not fully happy also. Because you can see in the Puranas, in the Vedic histories, so many times the demigods, they are actually in so many histories around the world, Greek histories, Nordic histories, the demigods are always getting in conflict with one another. So they're not that happy, actually, even though they're enjoying so much. And they are not immortal. So Yamaraj then said, it's only in Vaikuntha, in Vishnu Loka, that all beings are eternal. So in the Vedic cosmology, each universe is like a bubble, and within that bubble, it's very big, there are 14 different categories of planetary systems. Not 14 planets, but 14 different categories. There are lower planets below us and higher celestial planets above us. And these celestial planets are like heavenly realms. But all these 14 different planetary systems, they're all karmic. And when your karma runs out, then you have to leave that planet and you either ascend back up to Earth or you descend back down to Earth, because Earth is where you make karma, and higher and lower planets is where you burn that karma off. So you can either enjoy or suffer. Even like in the Tibetan traditions, they give so many, and in the Christian traditions, they explain so many lower planetary systems where people with not very nice karma, they go down to be rectified. So Yamaraj was explaining that the Swarga Loka, it's not an eternal destination. Heaven is not eternal. And it's only in Vaikuntha, or the spiritual world, which is beyond the material universe, only the beings there are immortal. So then he said to Nachiketa, I will teach you the yajna by which you can get to Vishnu Loka, to the eternal spiritual world. And I give you another benediction for free, that this yajna will now be named the Nachiketa yajna from this point forward. And now, Yamaraj says, now ask me for your last wish. And Nachiketa, he said, some people say there is such a thing as Atma, as soul. And some people say there is no such thing as Atma, as soul. So please explain to me, what is Atma Tattva? What is the true teaching on the nature of the soul? And then so Yamaraj says, even the great Devatas, the great Rishis, the great sages, they have a lot of doubt and confusion about this topic, because we see even here on this earthly planet, some traditions say there is no soul, some people say there is a soul, some people in the same text, in the same tradition, use soul in different ways and in different contexts, and there's a lot of confusion. Is there a soul or is there not a soul? And the philosophers have theologized over this for millennia without coming to any clear conclusion. So Yamaraj said, this is very difficult to understand. You should just not worry about this and ask something else from me. I can give you such a long lifespan. I can give you vast wealth. I can give you so many elephants. I can give you so many horses. I can give you so many beautiful women who will be adorned in gold and so many nice ornaments. I can give you all of these things. And how many beautiful women do you want? 72,000? Just name a number. So Yamaraj was putting all these offerings to Nachiketa in this way. And then by his mystic power, he demonstrated to Nachiketa some of these offerings he could have. So many elephants, so many chariots made of gold, so many beautiful women. And then Nachiketa, he said, oh Yamaraj, I don't want any of these offerings. Why? Because all of these things are under the control of death. And if you give me a lifespan of 100 years, 1,000 years, 100,000 years, or 1,000,000 years, then all these things will be finished. And even 1,000,000 years, it may seem, oh, that's such a long duration of life. But then what will happen after that 1,000,000 years? Again, you'll come back to the same position where you started from. So what ultimately have you gained from that? So we're very much in this kind of mentality at the moment here on earth. We're trying to build our castle in the sand, and we invest our whole life's energy into building something that we cannot take with it and has no lasting good effect for our life or for our soul. It's just a castle in the sand, and this kind of mentality is becoming so consumeristic, so materialistic. It's so destructive for the whole planet in general and every living being on this planet. And it's not making us more happy. So Nachiketa, he was quite onto it, and he was not in favor of any of these benedictions. So then he said, I don't want any of these things, just tell me one thing. Tell me about Atma Tattva. Tell me about the soul. So then Yamaraj said to him, in this world there are two things, preha and streha. Preha means what you want for your happiness right now. What's going to give me immediate gratification. And streha means doing something now which may not give immediate happiness, but in the future it leads to happiness. Just like if you have some disease and you have to take some Ayurvedic medicine, in the beginning it may taste very bitter and it's not very nice, but in the long run that natural medicine will lead to complete healing and rejuvenation of the physical system. But if you take some pharmaceutical medicine, it may be sugar flavored and it may taste very nice straight away, but then that leads to all kinds of other disturbances in the physical body, and in the end you'll be suffering more. So the path of preha, immediate gratification, is not necessarily your friend in the long run, because actually here on earth people don't even know how to enjoy. Because if you're enjoying, you're going out drinking alcohol, taking drugs, so many things, eating so much fried food and all kinds of foods that don't go together. And then later in life you'll be suffering so much disease and everything will come in the body. So this is not actually enjoying. People don't know how to enjoy. That will lead to harmony even in their physical system. So we're very much in this mentality in current times. And streha, following a path with a more broad-minded vision that leads to ultimate benediction and ultimate happiness, this is very much not emphasized in the current culture. It's very much emphasized immediate gratification. As soon as possible, you must enjoy. And this is a very disturbing mentality for our psychological apparatus, as well for the physical body and the whole earth in general, and takes us further and further away from our soul and our true nature. So, Nachiketa, he's not wanting any of these temporary happinesses, and he just wants to find out about the soul. And so Nachiketa, he says to Yamaraj, "Oh, I want for nothing more in this world, because you are a great soul. You are one of the 12 Mahajans. You know the secrets of Dharma, you know the secrets of Bhakti, and therefore I have had your association, so there's nothing left for me to accomplish in this world. So please just instruct me about the soul." And Yamaraj says, this Atma Tattva, this knowledge about the soul, is really, really understood by anyone. And also in this regard, it's very rare to hear about the soul. Many spiritual traditions, they are talking about maybe one attribute of the soul, because an eternal attribute of your soul is consciousness. Eternally you have consciousness, but it's not that you are consciousness and full stop. Consciousness is coming from the soul. There's 3 eternal qualities of the soul. Gyanhitra, Kartritra, and Bholkitra. So the soul can know things. It has consciousness. It has awareness eternally. It has the ability to instigate activity, and it has the ability to experience. These are 3 eternal attributes of the soul. And so it's very rare to find someone who has very deep knowledge about the soul. And so many people, they are saying things about the soul, but it's something they've read in a book, or it's something that they've heard here and there, but they have no realization of the soul. So it's very, very rare to come across someone who has really realized their own soul. And for some of my brothers and sisters here, we are under the guidance of someone who has not only fully realized his own soul, but his soul's eternal relationship with the divine soul. And so in this way we are very much inspired, and it's a very different kettle of fish to come under the guidance of someone who has some ideas about the soul and someone who has actually realized their own soul. It's the difference between day and night. And so in this way that's very rare. And also another thing that's very rare is to meet someone who really wants to inquire about their own soul, because so often in spiritual life we're just trying to fulfill another vritti in the mind, another oscillation in the mind space. Oh, maybe I can be happy doing this, maybe I can be happy doing that, which really is happiness related to my own mind and my own body. And that's okay as a motivation for spiritual life, but that's not the ultimate goal of spiritual life. So these things are very rare in relation to the investigation of the soul. So those who follow the path of preha, the immediate gratification, they never obtain any auspicious destination. And those who are really on the path of streha, they are on the path of bhakti. They're on the path of following the road that will lead to eternal auspicious destination and really satiate the deep yearnings of their own soul. And this is not following a belief system. This is just recognizing the true eternal essence of your own soul, because Jivera Swarupa Hoya Krishna Das Krishna Tatasa Sakti Beta Beta Prakash. It's the very nature of the soul to be in a mood of loving service with the ultimate reality, Sri Krishna. And this is not something that you can choose. It's not something that you can get away from. It's you can deny it in one sense, and you can follow your own mind, body and senses for as long as you want to do, but just like it's the Dharma, it's the inherent nature of water to be liquid, to be moving, to be fluid. It's the inherent nature of fire to emit light and heat. It's the inherent nature of sugar to be sweet. If that white powder is not sweet, then it's could be something else, but it's not sugar. So these inherent qualities, this dharma, can never be separated from the object. So it's your eternal dharma of your soul to be in loving service. That's why this propensity is always there, and we superimpose that on our material conditioning. So therefore we're serving our mind, we're serving our senses, we're serving our cat, we're serving our boss, we're serving our family, because it's the inherent propensity in the soul to want to serve. But what it's really yearning for is to be in loving service with God. That's what we're really trying to move towards. So in this way, Yamaraj tried to tempt Nachiketa with so many different things, and there's a lesson in this that to really come to realization of your own soul, you have to see the futility in all the temporary things of this world and realize that they're not going to bring you happiness. And I'm not suggesting here that everyone needs to become a monk and go to the Himalayas or become a nun or anything like this. You can do that if that's what you want to do, no problem. But just like Arjuna, he put that idea forward in the start of the first chapter. But actually, we can still very much be engaged in our duties in this world. But if we come under the guidance of a realized teacher, he can teach us how at the same time to cultivate the realization of our own soul and to be in loving service with reality, with God. So Yamaraj was very pleased how Nachiketa was not captivated by all these material offerings, and then he started to praise Nachiketa. And Nachiketa said, "Oh, you don't need to praise me and offer all these nice words." And Nachiketa said, "I want to know what is the difference between Dharma and Adharma. What is the difference between the past and the future? What is beyond cause and effect? Please tell me this Atma Tattva." So we just gave some teachings from Gita early in the class about how the soul is eternal and is going through so many incarnations. The bodies are temporary, but the soul itself is eternal. And then Yamaraj says to Nachiketa, and we're just coming to the end of this little talk now, the syllable Om is Brahma Swarup. So in other words, the names of God is the same as the form of God. So this is also can be a bit of a stretch for our material intelligence. And by serving the syllable Om, or by serving the names of God, one will realize that these transcendental names, they are the sound form of the divine reality. And the three sounds in the mantra Om, they represent Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So how I said earlier in the class that for those who have seen the truth, they have all shared that the one supreme non-dual reality, it can be realized in three ways: in Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So in a formless aspect, and the next is where you're seeing the divine presence in all living beings and seeing God in the mood of being the regulator of the material cosmos. And next, the final Purnata, the full realization of the Godhead, is Bhagavan. And we'll talk more about that later on, but that full realization is Radha and Krishna, the masculine and feminine aspects of the Godhead who are equal, and they are the zenith, the manifestations of the Godhead where the love is most manifest. That is Radha and Krishna, because Krish means attractive, and Na means all of existence, or it also means Ananda. So that being in all of existence who is most attractive, that is the form of God known as Krishna. And he has a consort, a Shakti, Radharani, and she is the pleasure potency personified. She is love personified. If you think about, you can't even accommodate it in your mind, but the all-pervading energy of love, and that personifies into a person, that is Krishna's Shakti Radharani. So in this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, 8 of the names addressed to Krishna, the masculine aspect, and 8 are addressed to Radharani, the feminine aspect. So it's the full package here. Everything's there. We're not leaning to any kind of male dominance here. So in this way, Nachiketa here showing us that we really have to be sincere in our intention in spiritual life to not just get distracted by the material temptations, and you really must have a thirst to really want to realize your own soul and your soul's relationship with the Supreme Reality. You have to be sincere, and you have to be humble to realize your own limitations, and that you need guidance. Just like Arjuna at the start of the Gita, he was humble and realized, I'm in confusion and I can't figure this out. So he took shelter of Krishna, and in this way he became open to receiving instructions. So thank you for patiently listening again. And any questions or thoughts, reflections or complaints on any of that?
More chanting.
I'm sure Bo wants to have this video because he always
I want to
tries
ask you
to.
something. What happens when you have a master, a teacher, and the teacher, spiritual teacher dies?
You can also
For
input.
another-
One thing we have to understand here, if you really have the true teacher, the Sadguru, he doesn't die, because his body's not material like our material body. And Guru is always with you, because the connection is spiritual, it's not material. And this relationship is also eternal. But if the Guru, just like every morning, the sun is coming up, right, from the east. And then in the evening time, the sun sets in the west. And we might say, oh, the sun's died, or the sun's gone. But we know the sun's just become unmanifest from our vision. So in the same way, when the Sadguru, the spiritual master, he becomes unmanifest to our material vision, still there is an eternal relationship going on. But on this earth, there is always highly realized spiritual beings, and you can take guidance from another spiritual being, because there's 2 categories of gurus, Siksha Guru and Diksha Guru. So Siksha Guru means instruction, and you can have many Siksha Gurus, many gurus who hopefully have high realization, who are giving you instruction. But your relationship with the Diksha Guru, that is one, and that relationship with the Diksha Guru is eternal. Madhava, you like to share something on this?
Yes, actually, the relationship with Sri Guru is always eternal, because it's not like a relation between a body and another body, like between family member or friends or anyone in this world, no? So also when Sri Guru become a manifest from this world, we don't say that he die, but we can say die for you to understand, no? But so your relationship is not ended there, because it's a relationship between soul and the soul, and the Sri Guru, he has this position of Guru, not just because he has studied the scripture and so he can come and give a lecture or entertain us with something, or because he has studied somewhere and he received paper, now you are a guru. He is a guru because he's a realization of God, and he know him in person. Like we can know each other now. We can look each other, we can know what you like, what you don't like, and speak and laughing and talking together. So guru like this with God. And I can see from the face of many that even this is difficult to accept, no? Because we don't know who is God. Maybe we not even believe in Him. Actually, our faith in God comes when we will see Him. It is called Nishta in Sanskrit. Means now your faith is very strong and fixed. Nobody can shake it. Nobody can put it down. Because now you have seen beyond this reality and you see the actual reality, who is actually also here. God is here. So if Guru, let's say he die, he become unmanifested, he still guide you, he is always present according to the level of love you have for him. If you did not do any service for him when he was here, if you was not really surrendered to him and you was not really following what he was saying, then you was not really connected. Then when he leave, you are also still not so connected. And if you give fully your heart and life and everything to him, then you experience that actually when he is leaving from here, your separation become like a fire, very strong from him. And it is said that now Shri Krishna see your heart, that you are in such a separation from your guru because he's a person who you really love. He's not just a teacher like at school or someone, no? He's a person who you really love. So then now in this moment Krishna, he understands there is nothing I can give to this person to make him happy, because it doesn't matter what God can give you, you will not be happy because you are searching for him and for your guru. Therefore Krishna will become manifest in front of this disciple, and guru become manifest again with the form that he has when you was seeing here, and also with his spiritual form. So it's a very deep topic, but in a simple way, the relationship is eternal, and also because we always need to continue our journey here in this planet, we have not completed our journey in one day of bhakti, for example. May take few years or few lifetime to complete, because the goal is to attain love for God and to see Him and to be in a service to Him. Therefore, if you in this life you have not attained that love of God in the heart, and Guru go away, no problem actually, because your relationship with him continue, and also more person who are here in this world, who are actually have this love of God also, who are Guru, they will come to you themselves. God will send them, and your Guru can send them here. So this is a continuation, is eternal, because Guru is actually not just a singular person, but is a principle, means that is God Himself entering a certain person and speaking through this person to us. No?
You say it's a principle. Can you explain that?
Yes, it's called Tattva. In Sanskrit, it's called Tattva. Tattva, Guru Tattva. Actually, is the original part of Guru is Krishna himself. There are more details, but you need more base to understand this detail I'm not going into now. So I just say that Guru is God, is Krishna, entering into a person here in this world, and through this person, he is distributing this love of God to the person here. Therefore, because we cannot see God, we cannot see God in our heart, we cannot listen to Him in our heart. Therefore, how can you be guided by Him? Not possible. Therefore, the Guru in your heart, take the God in your heart, become outside in the form of Guru. Now you can see Him, and now you are sure to listen from Him what to do, what not to do. And therefore, He is guiding you.
But you said when you are longing for your guru, because he's dead, for example, Krishna himself will manifest. You said that. Can you explain that?
Because the disciple who has given his life to his guru, now his guru has left, he is now in an intense separation, because the person who you love is not present. Okay? So then Krishna, how can pacify you? It's like a fish out of water. What you can give him to make him happy of this world? You can bring everything. He will not be happy. Only one thing. Put me back into water. Can you do it? Yes. Otherwise, you can go. So therefore, Krishna is like that. He can offer everything to such a person, but he is not interested. Therefore, the only thing he wanted that his Guru and Krishna come. And so Guru and Krishna will come. Even though you are not qualified in that moment, but this fire of separation from Guru burn all the contamination in the heart and you become qualified. What means you become qualified? It means to see God, nobody is qualified. Because God is a person, He comes when He wants. You understand?
So Krishna himself will come.
Yes. But this will come first in the form of Guru, then you have to be sincere, go through a path of purification and surrender, put aside other desire and so on and take. So this is a natural process. Actually, it's very simple if our heart is simple. You know, it's very simple and natural. If our heart is simple and natural, but it's not like that. The heart, so sometimes it's a bit difficult to surrender to another person because our heart is more, ego is more like, I don't want to hear from anyone, I know everything, I can find out myself. And today also so many cheating religions, so many cheating guru, people who has no realization of God and they take the position of guru. Therefore, in any type of religion, in any country, this just for money and reputation. Therefore, many people faith in the practice, spiritual practice is very low. You know? And that's it. But still, anyway, by good fortune, everybody can attain some faith. Especially if you chant anyway Hare Krishna on a mantra every day, the heart becomes purified and you attain some spiritual sukriti, some spiritual, how you can say, credits, some spiritual credits you can collect, and then when a pure spiritual master comes, your heart will feel it inside. Nobody can tell you this is your guru, this is your guru. You know? And so your heart will melt and you will feel it.
We're just going to do a really short kirtan and then